Anthony.
Yes.
It's a thumper, and I saw it. Let me go see if I can get back to your question. It's very like what badge you working on right now?
It says Sales Cloud badge. I don't know why it's in here because I don't think you do code for Sales Cloud, but maybe you do.
Let me tell you something about Sales Cloud. It's not the code, it's the psychosis you have to deal with sales. So Anthony, the problem with Salesforce has been and will typically always be that the people who, I'll put it this way, the people who buy Salesforce are the executives, right? Salesforce is sold to executives. Hang on, let me get my gallery. Salesforce is sold to executives. It's built by guys who know code, and then it's expected to be used by salespeople. Do you see anything wrong in that equation? Do you see anything in that triangle of ridiculousness? What's happening? And executives don't understand. They're like, well, I don't want sales. Put validation rules in. Add tasks. Salesforce them to do what I want them to do. I'm like, how about you get the F out of the way and let a sales guy learn Salesforce and therefore build it for sales. It's never done that way. So, yeah, that's just that. So, let's see. I'm doing some stuff on mine. So yours, like Anthony, we're gonna get into this in a minute. We're gonna start in just a second. And welcome, Darrell. I know you're out there banging away, man, and just keep hanging, brother. So what I'd like you to do is find the trail that you're stuck on, but I don't think we'll get deep into that question particularly. But what I will do, Anthony, is so you're trying to let me see if I get this right. You're also trying to finish so that you can get the certificate to take the class to help pass the test, right?
Yes. Yeah.
For Sales Cloud.
If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I think I'm supposed to be getting a job offer from Spring ML to be a consultant the next day or two. I thought it was supposed to come on Friday, but the CEO didn't finish whatever. So I confirmed they're gonna pay for the exam. So I don't necessarily need to do this part because I don't think it has anything to do with sales. Doing how concurrency works, and the other stupid one is
I never even heard of concurrency, and I'm Sales Cloud certified. What trail are you on? Welcome, Dwayne. Dwayne, I just the spiel of this one. Let me make sure I'm on my. See if I'm broadcasting live yet. I think I am. Yeah, we are. Good.
You are.
Yeah, good. I just want to make sure. All right, so I'm supposed to look at those. What one of y'all? And I'm thinking it's going to be. Amanda's here already. Welcome, Amanda. I think it's going to be Amanda. Can you watch the chat to see if I think I'm supposed to if there's anybody if anybody's watching this live on YouTube, God bless you. But
Anthony just put something in the chat.
I did. I put your trailhead that you asked me about. So it says
I'm talking about the YouTube chat, just to be clear, by the way. But I got you, so that's good.
Okay. Well, what's a YouTube chat?
Just take if you're looking at it on YouTube, Amanda, I just ask you to you could probably hold the space because these other guys are men and they can do one thing at a time and that's it. And I know you can think about other things while you're doing something else. I know that's a superpower.
Thanks, Dominic. Okay. No, because I'm on Zoom, so I just need to go to YouTube.
Oh yeah, well that's fine.
I'll figure it out.
Hold on. No, I'll put it in the chat. You're on. So Anthony, you're about to get a job. You're about to get a job as a consultant.
I am
knocking this stuff out. Awesome.
Yeah, hopefully.
These other guys are men and they can do one thing at a time.
I got to tell you, yep.
And I know you can think about other things while you're doing something else. I know that's a superpower.
Okay. Thanks, Dominic. Okay.
That's right.
Zoom, so I just need to go to YouTube.
Whoever's.
I'll figure it out.
Somebody could. Yeah. You can mute the video.
You're about to get a job.
So I'm gonna. I'm going to mute you guys that are doing that. All right. So your Sales Cloud consultant. So we'll look at that. Let me share my screen real quick. So look, it is the nature of Salesforce. One of the flaws of one of the flaws of Salesforce has nothing to do with Salesforce. It has everything to do with executive leadership. And my passion ultimately is, I don't know, you guys, because you're military, I think you guys can, or relationship to the military, you can understand that leadership is critical. And when I trained leadership training in corporate America, I used to get all the time, they would go, "Oh, Will, you're in the military. People have to do what you tell them." I'm like, yeah, that's right. We have a universal code of military justice, and if you don't do what you're told, there's a punitive structure built in place. So see, yeah. Oh, by the way, those people also have loaded weapons. Just so you know, if they don't put the cover sheet on the TPS report, that's all that'll happen to you. But in the military, we learned that if you're a bad leader, you could go home in a body bag with a bullet hole in your back, and they'll say it's because the enemy shot you while you were running away. He was that much of a coward. And then that'll be it, right? And we learned that in Vietnam, that the 90-day wonders, whole 9 yards. So leaders are my passion. So I'm out to train, you guys. So when you get in there and you have leadership problems, you come to me and we'll work on that leader to be a better Salesforce leader. So anyway, we're looking at the prerequisite, and I want to know which one. So this is a really good one. I want to look and see if I have. I don't even think. Look, I've only done 46% of it, so I'm really interested to see. You already got your admin cert, right, Anthony?
Yeah, I have my admin cert. Yes, and this is my
beautiful.
This is going on my second one. This will be my second.
Awesome, and I think probably what is the task? Sales practice. It's 11%.
It's in build efficient applications without limits is the area. It's near the bottom.
So I know, like Dwayne, we talked a lot too. Like this whole the language of business, and then the language of Salesforce, right? That's a hard thing to get put together. And then the language of sales is just as hard, because understanding what salespeople are talking about when they don't even know what they're talking about, there's that. So let's see. Meet your business average change, sales cut pricing. Yeah, they've added to this one. No.
Yeah, keep going. Getting closer.
Wow. By the way, Dwayne, this might be a really good one for you as well. It's in the chat.
It's the little it's the hot air balloon one. Right there.
This one?
Yep.
All right, build efficient applications without limits. Woo! Well, look, we could do this one. Let me just check real quick where I keep you guys' questions. So, I know Dwayne, you and I met already. Amanda, you're here. Darrell, if you, not for nothing, Amanda, you took the test and passed it the first time?
Nope.
I think.
I did not
Nope,
pass
okay.
my first time, my admin test.
Oh, right. All right. Well, see? And look, it doesn't matter how many times you fail. You only have to pass it once and then maintain it. Okay?
Same for
So,
me.
just
I didn't pass
don't,
the first time.
as the lesson goes, you do not need to be, the grade you get on the admin is pass or fail. So you got to get a little better at picking the wrong answer and eliminating that from the choice list, right? And then understanding what's there. So wherever you're stuck, we'll kind of get to that. But I don't know if we'll get through this, but let me just say something real quick, kind of intro. This is the Salesforce SuperUser Saturday. I'm more than willing to do more of these. I'm considering doing one during the week. But the one during the week might have a guest or different topics. It'd be a little more like my podcast that I'm kind of do. I'm toying with a few names. I'm thinking about Salesforce Zen as my podcast, or just Salesforce with the ADD guy. Like, I have all these branding images in my head that would stop me. I'm just going to start doing it as the Sales and Technology podcast, because my company, salesandtechnology.com, works with small businesses. And really, I do work for a consultant right now, too. I work for the Fury Group. And the Fury Group is great because there's a lot of veterans that work there. It's a small boutique shop, the oldest partner in the Southeast. And I want to give them a shout out for all the work, because I got to tell you, prior to working with those guys, I had taught hundreds of people the admin course. But what you know and how to apply it to different companies and organizations is really where the learning is. So, Darl, if you're like struggling to get it in some cases, and Dwayne, I know you're trying to get it, I want to encourage you guys to get some experience. And if you need help, or if you want to just like tag along, if you have some availability, those kind of things, I'm happy to like, let you watch me problem solve, because I guarantee you, the thing about Salesforce is everything you learn on Trailhead may or may not apply to your Salesforce. See, your Salesforce, the one you work for with your company, right, Darl? Like your company has Salesforce, and whatever you do there is going to be easier than what Amanda's doing. And I'm not sure if you're doing it yet, Amanda. Like I know you've been training for a couple of months, but what you're looking to do, Anthony, is very different when you're a consultant, because you're now going into other people's Salesforces, OPS, and you got to figure out the technology debt, the sales direction psychosis, the leadership gaps. What did they do? Why did they do it? Oh my God, what is it? Like you got to be, you're stepping into a battleground. Something you cannot just do. You cannot just do what the trailheads, because the ripple effect will be very different. And so one of the things I'm doing with my newer clients is there's a do it for you methodology in the consulting world. There's a do it yourself in the customer world, and I'm trying to bridge the gap between those things. Like, hey, let me do it with you or your super user, so that I understand the business application behind what we're trying to accomplish, and you understand the Salesforce implication of what you're asking me to do. And I think it would make customers better consumers of partner expenses. Amanda, have you started doing work for other partners?
I've done service and sales cloud implementations. So
are you doing straight up startup? Oh, so you're doing that's the easy way. Like
right from the start.
If not Salesforce to Salesforce is relatively easy, except when they ask for all the same things they had in the old system. Like, why? Well, you have that's not the point of this, is not to carry, right? This isn't, we don't want to, the difference between history and legacy. Do you know the difference between history and legacy? Anthony, what's the difference between history and legacy?
Legacy being the software that you're stuck with, in the constraints that you're stuck with, on how to do things. History being what you're trying to accomplish, what the relationship is with the client, what the sales are, but not necessarily how you record it. That's how I do it.
Right. So I'll say it a little different, but you're right on, right? So history is what's happened in the past. Legacy is what's happened in the past that you still do today. And people want to, for some reason, they want to carry forth their bad data legacy to create their future. And that's a common human dynamic. If you've ever failed at a diet, or you've ever failed at exercise, or you've ever failed at trying something, right? You might make a decision that says, I can't do that, so therefore my future is limited because I choose not to do that anymore. I choose not to go ask somebody to dance. I choose not to, you've been embarrassed. You won't read in public. People are afraid to talk about all that stuff, right? That's our legacy driving our future, when it has nothing to do with what we want or what we say we need. So I know, like what you're doing right now, Amanda, is you're gathering their business requirements and understanding what has to happen for their business to move the money and the behaviors in the right direction, the right way to make the most profitable results happen in your business. So what you, Amanda, have you gone into troubleshooting or basically like servicing a customers that
Few.
already have Salesforce? A
Yeah,
few?
so I have a few Tableau CRM things that I've worked on, editing the JSON on some filters for
Wait, hold on.
some clients.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on. Keep saying that. I'll be right back. I'm just going to mute
Okay.
myself. I got to be right back.
Yep.
That and then share your
and-
experience of what you discover when you have to diagnose those problems as well.
Right. And then, but it's hard. Like you lose track of time when you're in a client's org. So I had one where we couldn't add a list to the, it was like a list view was not coming up. I can't even remember what it was. It was last week. I've kind of blocked it out. So I spent about 2 hours trying to troubleshoot this. Like I was ready to just delete the whole page and start over in the app. And I asked the senior on it. She's like, well, first let me, I'll just create a case because, this has been 2 hours. She'd worked on it. I'd worked on it. We couldn't figure it out. So that was interesting to be like, all right, this is supposed to work. We should just be able to put this on here. And it didn't. And so creating a case there. But yeah, so with my consultancy, we do focus on small and medium businesses. And so we get these things called jump starts. And so it's nice as a newbie, you're able to, Anthony, I see you're nodding your head that you're familiar with that too. And so it's nice for the most part, they're just new implementations. So I got a Service Cloud Jumpstart kicked off this week. And so they have Sales Cloud, and now we're just adding in the service part as part of their Jumpstart. So pretty awesome. There are also Tableau CRM implementations. So I'm hoping I need to I need to take the test. I have to attempt the Sales Cloud platform app and the Tableau CRM exams here soon. So yeah, not looking forward. I don't want to test. Like I can do the work. The Salesforce tests are tricky.
Hard.
They are.
They're hard.
Well, yeah, it just the way that they word the questions is not the way my brain works. So I can do the work. It's a matter of being able to figure out the correct question, answer to the question.
We're gonna do a whole. We got. Well, and that might be why I'm taking on another live, just for certification. Like that's kind of, because I have an instructional design background. I took a class in 2005 at the University of Georgia on how to write tests. I'll admit I'm really not the best. I was a good student. I mean, I got good grades, but that's because turns out I know how to take tests pretty well. I grew up with 2 parents and 2 step parents are all teachers, so I didn't have much room to get that way. So anyway, the test is, you're right, it's hard, and they all are hard. But so here's what I've been telling people for the last, I don't know, Amanda, at least a year, maybe 2. Is that in order to pass the test, you really have to go get in the system, and if you can wrap your head around the business scenario that they're describing, it can really kind of help. Now, for you, Anthony, this is a very particular one. I've never done this trail. They kind of added to this.
This is the wrong one. I mean, this where you're in right now, just so you know, it's the second one below it. So I've already done all these 4 or 5 that are here. That one isn't a big deal. But if you go back,
well, the reason I was just checking them to make sure that there are no prerequisites. Like there's
that just explains
in order to get to the other one,
why they have those timeouts and why they have what the limitations are. That's what that.
I mean, really, like Salesforce it's not in the cloud. You know that, right? It's in a data center somewhere around the corner from your house, right? And so. It's just computers doing what computers do, and if they have to manage in this world of ours. Hi Martha, welcome. so these are all tests, right? So this is the one that has the exercises themselves, right?
Right. So
And I'm
the
just really
second
trying to
one-
get
the second and third one are the ones I'm stuck on.
right.
when I-
Here's what I'm looking for in Trailhead. I look for the 100-point versus the 500-point challenges. 100 points are just questions and answers. The 500 points are actually you got to do stuff. So I wanted to kind of go through. We can either, like, I don't really know. So this is a very advanced subject for most of the people here trying to get certified. I think, Martha, you're trying to get certified too. I know Amanda's already
Not in
certified.
this one, for the admin, not for this one though. Yeah.
Yeah, admin. What I love.
Salesforce admin, I don't need to talk. I mean, I have an appointment with Bill.
No, it's fine.
So,
No, it's fine. I like this idea because you run it like, so this is more advanced. I don't know why they put this into sales. Well, I don't like this. Like I said, I did this. I completed this sales one years ago. But what's good about even these other ones that are not like directly related is that it takes you to the places that you need to go to kind of make sure. Actually, I want to do this. I got a reason to want to do this for a client that I'm working on setting up to do an integration of their one system to another, because that's really going to happen a lot too. So, Anthony, we will like. What I could tell you is, if you're having trouble completing this, what I would say is scratch the org. What do you mean? You don't understand it?
I don't understand what they're asking me to do. So people keep on saying, well, the trail will tell you what to do, but it doesn't make any logical sense to me. If you scroll down to the bottom there, keep going down, it gives you a whole list of like a sample of the call out, and then it says to basically make a change. But I don't understand that code, so I don't understand what I'm supposed to change. And I'm reading this asynchronous, all this stuff ahead of me. That doesn't make any sense to me at all, as far as what I'm looking at. So I'm trying to and look at every other trailhead I've looked at. It actually explains, gives you kind of a sample of, you go through a sample one, and then here's the trailhead challenge, and then it's similar, right? But this one is not like that at all. It just is like, okay, well, now change it. And I'm like, but to what? This makes no, and it says this call out doesn't work or something like that. And you go down here, I've installed the unmanaged package without issue, but I can get to the setup call out controller, but then it says replace the existing call out code with a new con. I don't know what that means. So I can't do it because I don't understand what it's asking me to do.
Gotcha. I get it. So there's two ways to handle that. One is to try to go learn it and really understand it if you need it. The problem with adult learners, this is another thing I learned I wrote a paper on this in college. The problem with adult learners is they have no time to learn things that are irrelevant, because we have stuff to do. Kids can learn much faster and easier because they got nothing else to do. They got no bills to pay. They got no kids that need to eat, right? So therefore, those little useless boogers, right? So what I can say is this. So what they said was, you do the package, blah blah blah, and then you find. Did you find the call out controller?
Yeah, I have that.
Okay.
I downloaded it. I have a controller. I just don't know what to do next.
I bet you the new con is this. Just copy and paste this. Just probably try to copy and paste that wherever they tell you to copy it, and then
I don't know where that's at. That's what I'm saying. I can share my screen later. I don't want to take up everybody else's time, but
let's try this. Let's just try real quick. Let's just try something. What the hey, man? Let's just try something. So, and then I do want to talk a little bit about the security model, because I think I'm having I did a bad thing yesterday, Amanda. Remember I talk about, and I'm waiting for my computer because my little Mac is getting tired. And the poor thing can't handle all these things that are going on. So so I got to take them and try to get things to quit. Let's see. Let me try that. Try freeing up some things. I actually remember I always say, like, when it comes to data security, you never want to just use the security model to bypass the intention of the security that you were trying to do.
Yes.
And I've done that. I put a guy above his role that he should have been so that he could get access to records that he needed to change the ownership of, which is, but I told him he's only got till Monday to make changes. Now, probably if I remember, then I'll do it by Monday. But I said that's the wrong way to do it. But I'm going to give you a window to get it done, because I honestly, for $200 an hour, I think here's the biggest challenge I run into, and you guys are going to run into this. Human beings don't really understand data, and spreadsheets are documents that people use to pretend they're looking at data. And over and over and over again, I run into that. So please, whenever you see an example of it, tweet me and put the hashtag stop using spreadsheets. So, all right, we're just going to do this. Watch. So I didn't load the unmanaged package, but I'm going to go to the call out controller and setup, right? I guess I am. Let's see, where do I got to go? I got to go.
Apex.
Oh yeah, find the Apex class. I
can't believe this is on the trail.
Sales Cloud? I know, like, it doesn't make any
This
sense.
should be a developer thing. Apex?
This is
I don't
totally-
work with any Apex.
That very first one, where it says the very first one up there, top, that's the one you have to work with. Yep. So
That
I
one?
edit. Yep.
Wait,
Wait,
how do you know that one?
It just says, no, it just says edit call out controller class. I just assumed it was that one. Mine says call out controller.
Yeah, I don't have it because I didn't,
you
let's
have
just
to
do it
install
anyway. I didn't install the package. It's fine. So, I mean, look, we're at the edge of what I know about this stuff, but my hunch is what they want you to do is, let's see, replace the existing code with a new continuation con, process response. So that, I think, is...
If you look right in there, they have a spot where it says, see where it says process, line number 20 says process response.
Yes.
So they say something about process response further down. There's a return con right there at number 26, and continuation con 23. I just don't know what the hell that means. So like I can find it up in the trailhead of like what a continuation con is, like right there. That's just 23 through looks like potentially 31. I just don't know where to stick it.
I mean, what I would typically do. So basically what you're doing, this is much, I mean, what I think was happening is this, is they're trying to say, look, how do you get computers to talk to each other in the most efficient, elegant way possible? So I'll give you my example because I was also a cook. If you're making scrambled eggs, you don't go to the refrigerator, pull out an egg, close the refrigerator, come back, crack it, scramble it up, go to the refrigerator, grab another egg, take it out, crack it. But you want to be you want to grab all the eggs, bring them out, crack all the eggs, then whisk them together. Does that make sense? And if you've ever been to a buffet at like an Embassy Suites, they don't crack the egg and stir it up. They crack 1,000 eggs and they whip them all together and they put them out in little batches, little buckets, and you just use those to make scrambled eggs because it's already done. So it's kind of like, but you also wouldn't do that if you're at home. You wouldn't crack 10 dozen eggs, put it in your fridge. It would get gross after a while. So that's really the mindset behind what this is talking about. Now, the actual getting it done, I don't know. I would try just copying everything that's here and putting it in there and seeing if that worked. And see and just test it. I mean, that's all I could say. Don't let you understanding what they're talking about get in the way of following the directions of what they're telling you to do. Does that make sense? Like, don't let understanding get in the way of what you're doing. Now that's another old.
I don't
That's
know where
another old. Why don't you share your screen and show us, because you installed the package and everything, right? So we now
Yeah.
kind of got a little idea where we want to go to get it. And then I want to do the security model. While you do that, share your screen and show us what you're working with. You guys look, I'm going to go get my little diagram of the security model and then see if I can hook up my iPad to just draw it out, because I like doing that.
So here's
All right.
the call out controller that I see. I stuck lines 23 through 31 just right down here, and it has missing EOF continuation line. I
Why
don't
don't
know.
you wait? Why don't you take everything out of Trailhead, go back to Trailhead in that little example right above, and just paste everything in there. Like, grab everything and paste it all. Like, that's my default method, is to do exactly what they tell me.
Where? Like on this line number 31 or above it?
Call out controller out and put all that other stuff back in.
All the
Do what?
old stuff out, put all the new stuff in.
God.
Yeah, Gerald. Yeah, you could back up your existing code first, but we don't care. It's Trailhead. That's bad, right? I'm being bad.
You are.
I know.
My manager loved your line, though. I used it with a client when we were trying to do leads, and they were making their leads opportunities, really. So I'm like, man, you know what? One of my mentors, I think he has a great line. A lead is just a business card. If you have any more information than that, that is an opportunity. See, Dominic?
Potentially. Right, yeah, exactly. It's exactly. So and really
Woohoo, you
it
got
depends.
it.
Good job, Don.
See, you were trying to do code. What they want you to do in Trailhead is follow the instructions. Remember, we come from a factory training mindset, right? Which is do what you're told. And Gerald is right. You should have backed up your existing code first. But that's not our goal, Gerald. Our goal is to get a badge so we can get the free
Right.
certificate. So then we can take the test and do things that have nothing to do with what's actually in Trailhead.
All right, I will use that
Because
same
this is
philosophy on this next one, but I will stop sharing my screen, say thank you very much, and not take up any more of everybody else's time.
No, it's great. You learned it, but you told everybody. What did y'all learn from Anthony? Stop overthinking it. Yeah, it's exact. Yeah.
I was trying to.
They don't-
But Anthony, you did make me curious about it. So I am going to go back. I've got this starred now because now I want to know what they're talking about. Because I also don't understand what they're doing. So
makes-
maybe
it
next
makes
month
no
I can
logical
give a little
sense to have a-
synopsis of, okay, so
Yeah,
this
it
is what
makes-
they're really talking about. Because like yesterday was my first experience in Visual Studio. So I get it. It's different.
Right. You and that's the beautiful thing about, like, that's okay. So for you guys, concurrency is technically like, look, that's a lot. So don't get overwhelmed by it. You come across these things. What we just demonstrated was we have communities in Salesforce, right? And what my goal with this is to start us building a relationship. It's part of our community. I'm horrible at it, so if somebody would step up and say, I'll run the LinkedIn group, or I'll help with that, I'm all ears. That'll make everybody happy if I'm not doing it, because I'm, talent, not organization. So, I'm really, what am I looking at now? Let me see something real quick. So I know my place I'm learning my place in the world. Let's see. So I'm sharing can y'all see my whiteboard?
Yes.
Can y'all see my whiteboard?
Yep.
Yeah? All right. So I want to talk about the sharing model. Because that's one of the questions we had, and I know it's one of the things that gets hard to wrap your head around, and it's the security model, because Salesforce's security model is very different than other databases. It's not the same. let's see. Do I have my slide handy?
Well, Dominic's doing that. Does anyone on the call use mind mapping?
I have.
Because I've heard it's really good to help you visualize things, but I don't know how to use it.
I wouldn't worry about it. To learn something new is not usually been the most effective tool. All right, so I'm gonna skip that. I'm gonna go. What I'm weird about right now is what I'm weird. So I'm looking. I can't find the file, but I will show you other. Oh, there it is. Okay, so let's talk about the security model in terms of what you already know called the driver's license. So in my scenario of a driver's license, I am going, let's see, the chat up. Who sees what? Oh, yeah, there's a great series. And I have a link to that series. It's I can't remember where I put it, but I will make sure you guys get it in, my wife is calling me because she knows I'm here.
I'll grab the link.
Or she forgot.
And put it in there.
Ah, beautiful. That's beautiful. I lost I just dropped my little pencil. Oh, here it is. My free Georgia voters pencil that I got. All right, so the security model. So when you think about your car and your ownership, I mean, we're all adults here, but think about family. And we're going to talk about exactly. Thank you. Welcome, Gerald. I lost everybody. Oh, there they are. So I like to see your faces when I do this. So, all right, here we go. So if you have a household, right, and you own a car, it's a VW Bug. I know it's not a really cool car, but there it is. You got a car. Does that look like a car? Looks like a weird car, but it's kind of a car. If your car, there we go. In America, everything's about ownership. So the first thing, what gives you the right? Can you own a car and not drive it? Can you own a car and not be able to drive it? What would prevent you from driving your car? Typically. What do you need to drive a car? Besides the keys. Gas, right? But you can own the car, but you need a license, right? You need a license with your face and all your information, right? You need a license to drive that car, correct? What's the licensing? Now there's a term in Salesforce called licensing, right? When you buy a license in Salesforce, you buy the rights to whatever that every user that uses that license can do everything that license provides and nothing more. That's why we talk about licensing. There's Force.com licensing, there's Sales Cloud license, Service Cloud licensing, the full-on Salesforce license, which includes a lot of that stuff. But the license gives you the permission. So that's what the profile is, the permission. The profile is a subset of the entire licensing permission. So you can carve out based on groups of people that drive two-door cars might get a license for that. Now, and do we do that in our country? Yeah. You can't drive a commercial vehicle without a commercial vehicle license. You can't drive a motorcycle without a motorcycle endorsement, like a permission set. So, but in America, what else, if you have a license, what else do you need to drive a car?
Insurance.
Right. So you need insurance. I'm going to go back a step further. You actually need a car. right?
Yeah.
You might be able to drive car. Your license gives you the ability to drive cars. But how do you drive your car is you've got to own, if you own that car, you have the right to drive that car. Does that make sense? Because you own the record. Do you have to be the owner of a car to drive it?
No.
No. How could you drive a car that you don't own? Well, you could rent one. Your wife could let you use her car, or your spouse could let you use their car. Your friend could let you use their car. Your parents could let you use anybody. Someone could lend you that car. Now let's think about that for a second. If I lend you my car, do you have the right to sell it?
No.
No, not anywhere legally do you have the right to sell it. So if I lend my car to my neighbor who has a license to drive that car, they can drive it or they can ride in it. I call it driving, read, write. Riding is just read only. So you could share your car with others. They could share their car with you. Now, in a communal society, or let's say in a business, if a business owns a bunch of cars, and there's all you have to be is an employee of that business with a license to drive a car, and anybody can drive that car. What does that represent in sales? How do we represent that in Salesforce? What do we call that dynamic right there when I describe that?
Say that again.
So if let's say I'm in a situation where I work at a company and they've got a fleet of vehicles. And as long as any employee, like legally, any employee with a license, a legal state license to drive a car, and if they're an employee, anybody could just drive a car. Anybody can ride around in the car, right? The executives might be the only ones that could sell them, but anybody can drive their car. It's a public model, right? It's public read write model. Anybody can drive it because everybody works at that company. They're all part of that same group, right? That's the sharing model in Salesforce. That's how the sharing model works. It's anybody can, right? Or you could limit it to some people. Like everybody can see the fleet of cars, but only a certain group could actually, use those cars if they have the permissions to do it. All right, I'm getting off a little off track. Let my example. So ownership is everything in Salesforce. The owner of a record is one of the dynamics of the sharing model. Who owns it matters because every record has what? Every record in Salesforce has what? An owner. Every record is owned by somebody, which, by the way, not too far of an aside, should be an opportunity for you as a company to decide what it means to be the owner of a record. Does it matter? Does it not? It means something to Salesforce, but you could make it so that it doesn't mean anything to you, or you could make it so that it means everything to you. So that's the foundational concept of Salesforce. Every record has an owner, and ownership matters. You decide if it matters at all or not at all. You decide if ownership is something that for accountability purposes, for responsibility purposes, it dictates what there is to do. Now, I'll tell you, this is a missing outside of Salesforce in most organizations anyway. One of the things I love about the military is that in the military, they spend a lot of time and effort defining and refining responsibility and accountability, correct? Not a lot of businesses do that. So when they try to do this with Salesforce, which Sales forces you to think in this term, it's hard for people. Just like that director. He said, I want the permission, I want the ability to edit those, change ownership of those records. I'm like, well, it doesn't work that way, bud. So I can change ownership of records you want if you tell me what the data is that dictates you should own them, or I threw them above and said you got till Monday to figure out which ones and take ownership of what you want. So why? Because ownership matters. So let's go back to ownership. Ownership has to do with the record. Ownership has to do with the record. And record ownership gives you certain privileges. Just like when you own a car, you have the right to sell it. You could sell it. You could throw it. You could give it away. You could let somebody drive it, or you could ride in it. You could do everything. You have what's called full access with that car because you are the owner. There's an exception to that in the real world, but it also works kind of the same way in Salesforce. So go back to the household scenario. Let's say you have a 16-year-old pre-human being living in your house. A teenager. They are 16. Right? They're 16 years old. It's dumb. They're 16 years old. Can they own a car legally? Absolutely not. What country do you belong to? That is the wrong answer. 18 years old, you become a legal human citizen of the United States. Until that time, you are a ward of your parents. Your parents own you, and everything you own is owned by your parents. So anybody have a teenager living with them, you could explain that to them by throwing all their stuff away, and then when they get mad, they go, it's not your stuff. You can set the tone, right? When you're 18, my dad had 3 boys. I was the youngest of 3. And he said, when you're 18 and you're on your own. Not if, but when you're on your own, right? Because then you're an adult. Until then, I own you. So I know this personally. I left home at 16. I left home at 15, actually, right before I turned 16. And I was on my own, and I got emancipated. So at 16, I was a legal adult. I could sign my own notes in class. I could enter into a contract. I could have lots of things I could say and do as if I just couldn't vote because the country, the state, the Secretary of State wouldn't let me do it. So you have a 16-year-old and they buy a car. Or I'll better yet, they buy a motorcycle. Because that's what I did too. I had a motorcycle. Not before a motorcycle. Ugly motorcycle. Right? There's a motorcycle. They think they own that motorcycle. But who really can own that motorcycle as well? The parent, right? The parent can sell that motorcycle that teenager bought with their own money because that teenager cannot legally sign a contract, right? So in record ownership, it works the same way. That's why we have the role hierarchy. The role hierarchy is record ownership rolls up the chain. Because just like a parent owns everything a child owns, right? So does the role in Salesforce. When you look at the role hierarchy in Salesforce, everything that a subordinate owns, you own. And it works all the way up the chain. So record access rolls up the chain of command. However that looks, right? There's a role hierarchy. The higher up the chain you go, the more records you accumulate. But like your neighbor, it does not share records across the lane. It doesn't automatically share. It keeps everybody in the role or aside from roles. It does not share records. Right there. It does not share records across the lane. It's a really small one. Yeah. So record access, role hierarchy. See the R's? R. It's the pirate, right? The record access is centered around the owner. And the only thing that controls access to records that you don't OWN is what? Who remembers what that is? What controls the default access to records that you don't OWN?
OWD.
The OWD, the organization-wide defaults, control records you don't OWN. That's why the OWD is so important. Now remember, even in a public model where everybody can read, write everybody else's records, they still can't transfer ownership of those records unless they're an owner of the record. Only owners can transfer ownership, and that's the key word. Whenever you hear transfer of a record, you're talking about ownership. And transfers have everything to do with ownership. So only the owner of a record or a superior owns that record. And only owners can transfer ownership. Think about your car. Only you and the bank, right? They've got to repossess records to get it from, they got to repossess cars. So I know this is getting ugly. Back to this idea. So you, the parent, own that child and everything they own. If you do not have a motorcycle endorsement on your driver's license, can you drive your child's motorcycle legally? Yes or no? No, because you ain't got a license. So even if you inherit a record, what controls what you can see or do on that record is the permissions you have on that record. So that again is controlled by the profile. The profile says, yes, you're the owner of that record, but that doesn't mean we're going to let you delete it. That doesn't mean we're going to let you edit it. You have no accountability or responsibility even though you're the owner. Another way to say it is, even though your child has a motorcycle that you technically own, you still can't ride it until you get a license to ride it. Make sense? So that's the security model in a nutshell. So if I share a record with you, however I share a record with you, that prevents the ability to sell. If I lend you my car, you are not supposed to sell it because you have no ownership rights, right, for that record. So the ownership gives you rights, and whether anybody else can use your record really depends on the OWD. Is that your car in the fleet? Or, you're not the owner, the company's the owner. They've given you the right, they've given you the permission to drive it, but you still can't sell it. So it's been shared with you if you're not the owner. And if I share a record with you, if I share my car with you, and you don't have a license, then you can't drive it. I do not have the authority to override the model of security, just like we have in this country today. That's my little way of describing the security model. Is that helpful? So let me do this. Let me share that. I'm going to keep that image because I think it's okay. Then I'm going to clear it. I'm going to do another one. I'll add to my drive. And I'm going to call it. What am I going to call it? I have no idea how to do this. Can't forget that. All right, let me just see if I can save it. So if you want to restrict access to records, it's all ours, you're going to have to put it on my drive. You're going to have to set the OWD you're going to have to record access. If you want to restrict record access, the only place to do that is the organization-wide defaults. It's all or none. Everybody, if you want to restrict access to a record, if you don't want one of your children to drive the car, you have to restrict access to all the children. So it's a matter of one. If there's one record that in an object that I don't want one user to see, I have to restrict it for everybody, right? Let me get rid of that for a second. So that's the test, right? Should they be able to see the record? Other people. We're talking about the OWD now, right? Other people. Should they be able to see it? If the answer is no, then your only option is private. If the answer is no, everybody can see it, then if your answer is yes, then the next question is, should they be able to edit it? So if my car is available, you're my neighbor, you can ride in my car all day long, but can you drive it? If the answer is yes, then there's nothing you need to do. It's public read. You can make that public, and it's read and write. If the answer is no, trying to be consistent. If the answer is no, then you're saying, well, they can see it, but they can't edit it. Then your default is public read only. Now that restricts record access based on ownership, just record access. Do they even have access to the record to either see it or edit it? Does that make sense? Let's look at it in the system. Where do we look at this? So it's all in the sharing settings. And under sharing, it's a great way to look, right? It's all in the sharing. Should we share? Should we care? OWD. Oh. There, right? So here they are, my organization-wide defaults. Right now, if a lead record exists, it's public read, write, transfer. That means anybody, under any circumstances, can take ownership of that lead. They're just business cards sitting in the fishbowl, right? So notice also a couple of other things. If there's internal access versus external access, and whether you would grant access using role hierarchies. It doesn't say role in there, but it should say in hierarchies. So does that matter? Well, on all standard objects, it does. It's there. Because when you go to edit that, so you can control whether role access gives people access or not. You cannot change standard stuff, so you don't even bother trying. And then for custom objects, you can control whether or not the ownership and the role allows access or not. But this is where you change it. This is where you decide what's the default level of access for records I don't O, W, N. It's the OWD. So the organization-wide sharing defaults is what controls record access. Just access to the record. Now, if I don't have access to the object, does the record access matter? Does the OWD matter? Thanks, Anthony. Does it matter if I don't have, what do I need in order to have this access? I need to have the license for that object too. So even though the default level of access is edit and transfer, If I don't have, oops, I got to stop sharing my, look at me. I forgot to share my screen. I stayed on my whiteboard. Here I am talking about one thing. Here it is. So if I don't have, here's my OWD and sharing settings. I don't use my whiteboard very much in training. I'm trying to practice it more. Just like I did now. All right, so here it is. The OWD, the sharing settings, my organization-wide defaults for records I don't own. If you're a customer service rep and you have no license to even see leads, does this matter? Does the fact that I could, the default settings for records I don't own is read, write, transfer. But if I don't have, but what do I need as a user to be able to read, write, or transfer a lead? I need the permissions in my profile. Right? I need the permissions in my profile. I'm going to duplicate this tab. Is that helping? Look at my participants. Make sure you guys are there. Anthony had to leave. So, Gerald says yes. So when I go to my users and I look at the profile, and this is just my daggum. Right? So look at my custom profiles. If my support profile has no, looks good, doesn't it, Marina? It's a pretty bathroom, isn't it? Yeah. Let's see. So here's my profile, and if I go down to the objects, this is the older interface. Record type settings, administrative permissions. Where's my, there it is, right? Here's my standard object permissions. If on the lead, where is it? There it is. Yep. If they've got access to that, then it matters. But if I took that away, this is the other interface for this. I'm going to do Control F. Here's my lead. If I took away all that access, where they couldn't even see leads, the sharing settings wouldn't matter because they would no longer have even access to it. So again, it goes back to the child. Even if you own a record or somebody below you owns a record, and you in theory have full access to that record, just like the kid, if your kid owns a motorcycle, if you don't have a license to drive it, you won't even see the record. So the profile controls what you can see and do. Now remember, even if you can delete records or edit them, right? Let's just say delete. Even if you have the button that says, yes, I can delete an opportunity. If it's not your opportunity, can you delete it? But the leads you have read and edit to can still show up in reports, correct? Yeah. So right. If I have the ability to read or edit those records, that's my object permissions. So the profile is what you can do in that object. Always look at it like, okay, if I own it, this is what I can do. If I own the record, that's I'd like you to think about in terms of ownership. Put it inside the frame of ownership. Gerald, if I own a lead, I can do whatever I want with it. But in the security model we have here, so can you. as long as your profile gives you the permission to do it. So another way to look at it is the profile controls the buttons on your screen. Another way to see it, right? And the fields you see. So if I am looking at an opportunity, how do I know it's on my profile? Well, I've got edit rights because there's the edit button. I've got delete rights because there's the delete button. And I clearly have ownership rights because there's the change owner button. Now, why do I have? Because I'm the opportunity owner. Let's see. I don't know if I have other users in here. Let me see if I have them. And Joe Employee. Let's make Joe Employee a customer service rep. And voila, just like that. And then let me go back to my leads. I'm going to give Joe, I might not even be able to do it if I've already saved Joe. If I saved his record? Yep, I might not be able to do it. Let's see. If I want to change owner, it's already converted? I'm sorry my computer's moving so slow. Yeah, if you have read access to records, consider that. There's Joe. Whoops. So if you have read access to records or edit access to any kind of record, that's great for your. Yeah, look at that. It won't even let me give it to them because they don't even, you can't give it to somebody who can't read. It's like giving a book to a blind person. It's not a book made for blind people. Right? So Joe can't even get that employee because he doesn't even have read access. So the system won't even let you assign it to somebody that doesn't have the ability to even look at it, right? So that's it. That's the security model. Their profile didn't give them access. Now I can go back and change the profile. For the customer service rep before I go in as Joe. And again, it controls what they can see and what they can do. Lead. I probably need to refresh my page. I don't know for sure, but I'm going to give it a try. So I know it gets confusing, but remember, if you think about profiles and what you can do, think about it you got to think about it in terms of what does my profile allow me to do with records I own? Just put that in your mind because that gives you the buttons on the screen. Right? It gives me the buttons on the screen to say, this is what I can do with everything I own. The only two exceptions to that are changing ownership in your sharing settings. Remember, let's see. Public read only. Opportunities are private. Oh, that's great. All right. So I can change ownership of this lead. Now I can change it to Joe. And this is what I mean by going, like when you take the test, I don't care which test platform you use to study. So now Joe owns the lead. But it doesn't really matter, right? But watch. I'm going to log in as Joe. Let me go back to the lead for a second. I can still edit this lead because our default access to records is, yeah, if you got a license, you can drive any car you want. I could still edit the record, and I could change ownership again because the default sharing seconds the default Sharing settings are read, write, transfer. Anybody with a license to drive can drive this car. So now I'm going to go to Joe. I'm going to log in as Joe. And you'll see my edit button and my delete button on my record are going to be very different. Come on, Joe, log in, buddy. Oh, Joe. Oh, why is Joe? Why is Joe in Classic? This is the plus sign, which is, why is Joe in Classic? Anybody know? There's leads. Because I haven't given him the permission. That profile that I put him on does not give him permission to see Lightning yet. So this is the old Classic interface. I actually still like Classic in some ways. It's because you can get everything done with it, and it's a little faster. There's my Andy Young. And there it is. I can clone it, and I can share it, because I can create, and I can read, but I cannot edit, nor can I delete. Even though I'm the owner, just like a 16-year-old. And here's where full access, this is the only place full access lives in the system. Let me make that bigger. And I just, because I used to teach it in class, but these are the access levels for this record. Full access is what an owner gets. And I can extend other people, read, write, read only, or private. But this record is available to everybody in the organization. It's a small organization, so we don't have a whole lot of people. But every record is shared. Every record is shared when you change the settings in an object, it rewrites every record's sharing policy. So on any record, you could go look at what the sharing policy is for that record if you just want to get up to date on what's happening. Questions, comments, concerns? Thanks, Darrell. Appreciate you being here. Hey, Darrell, schedule another call with me. You have the practice test. Take it. You have the links to that. And schedule another call with me, and I'm happy to meet with you. We'll give it another shot.
All
But
right. Thanks, man.
keep going, buddy. All right. Thanks, Darrell. And then there were three. Gerald, Dwayne, and Amanda. We lost Martha. So let's see. Did you, by any chance, Gerald, fill out? See if I have a. It's my little marketing platform that I use. Did you guys have any other questions?
After 11 for this course, I just saw the email.
Gotcha. No worries. That's because I'm a horrible marketer with a lot of knowledge of marketing. So, Joe, did you have a question in particular that you wanted to have answered or anything? Was this session useful? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Well, so yes. So my question is around what to do when it's not working. So how do you investigate? Logging, scripts. We've got in Google Chrome, I've got some tools. So when you're designing a flow and it's not working, beyond debug, how do you investigate when something goes wrong?
You're talking specifically flows, right?
No, not specifically, but a lot of times it's flows. But so, for example, I've got one right now. It should, depending on what's going on, it's a record triggered flow that should email the employee, or it should email the employee and their manager. Okay, so it seems to work in flow. If I create the opportunity that should trigger the flow, the records are getting updated, but I'm not seeing the email. And yes, deliverability is turned on. I can email like from a case, I can email out. So the org is sending emails. But I have not received one email from this flow. And so it's like,
Yep.
okay, what do I do? Now I know there's email logging. So I turned on logging and it comes up empty. And I'm like, oh crap.
Do you have, all
My
right, so,
general rule was, so the first general rule was when you're designing something and it's not working as you plan, what are some good troubleshooting steps? So just general knowledge that would be valuable for everybody. And then specifically, this problem is if I should get an email, I'm not getting an email.
yeah, all right, so I have a history in the telephone business, and I used to write, if you've ever diagnosed a telephone call, there are about 100 things that have to happen between you and I, between your phone, my phone, and your phone, you and I talking. It's a very complex set of triggers and behaviors, right? And so, like any scientific experiment, you have to isolate variables. And like any Rube Goldberg puzzle, have you ever built a Rube Goldberg machine?
No, don't even know what it is.
You know what that is? Yeah, I know you do. You actually do know what a Rube Goldberg machine is? If I'm spelling it right. A Rube Goldberg machine is any machine that does it is a chain reaction process intentionally designed to perform a very simple task in a very complex way. And
Okay,
so
the game
why?
Mousetrap.
What's that?
The game Mousetrap.
Yeah,
that you
right.
played as a
So
kid.
it is exactly. It is just it's the most complicated way of doing something simple. So that being said, right, this is Google's way of doing this, right? So you got to go back and analyze the process. So where so in let me get my whiteboard out again. So let me do mine share. So the idea is, I'm happy to take a look at it, by the way, for you in a second.
Unfortunately, I cannot show you it.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, yeah. You can't blur. I get it. That's no worries. So I get it, Joe. So what you have to do, maybe we could just recreate it in just a second. But you're looking at my whiteboard right now. So what I always do, and this is with marketing and you want to take and figure out what are the conditions of where you are, and then what are the conditions of where you want to be. So there's a delta in between. But it should be written as a straight line process. So think about all the things that have to happen, and we call this the happy path in consulting. This is the happy path of where things go. So you got to identify it off the grid, if you will, like outside the computer, and look at it to make sure that all of the dominoes are falling in the order that you believe they should follow. And at every point, right? And I know you're doing this, right? But at every point, there's ingredients that either need to change or need to be a certain thing needs to happen at every step in order to move to the next step. Just like sales process. but try to get a salesperson to tell you what they do in between each step, because you're trying to, and then what happens is there's exceptions to every step as you go through, and if you don't have something here, you then need to veer off your path to go collect those things you need, and then that fulfills the next step. And then you basically just keep going in both directions for each one until you get to the place you want to go. Now I'm drawing this like this because this is more of a sales process, and I never waste an opportunity to talk about sales process because that's my expertise. And I consider these to be little escape rooms, right? So, and between these two would be each stage in your sales process, potentially.
Yep.
Right? There's ingredients you need to complete each stage in the process. Some things you do, some things your customer does, right? So when it comes to the flow, generally speaking, let's go look at that and see. I know Amanda's still on, and Amanda's got to leave. All right, you have a great week as well, and let's just kind of walk through. But Joe, were you in the military, by the way? Do you have a background?
No.
All right, just wondering. No
But I have
problem.
a passion for adult training, so understanding processes and breadcrumbs and events and all that stuff, no problem.
Sure. FOWO. So you got to remember this. Here's the fundamental thing you got to remember. Computers are dumb. They only do exactly what you tell them. Humans mess things up because they tell computers different things. So let's just kind of, this is a record triggered flow, right? So if something happens in a record, my computer's getting
Only
hot.
On creation.
Those are conditions, right? So, and then there's all those kind of, what are the conditions that, no problem, Amanda, thank you for being here. And I think, is Dwayne still, yeah, that's right. So you're looking at condition, trigger, action, right? Those are the three things, right? What's the condition of the record, the situation? Let's go to flows. So you have things like your paused and failed flow interviews. You can get your flow debug. And I want to tell you right now, I am not an expert. I don't do a lot of flows. That's why I'm not that good at them. I do what I'm good at flows is what I teach in class. But and that's because that's what I do. So what I would try to do when I'm working with a flow and I get stuck, I try to go find my handyman. Now, handyman is I got a buddy, a guy that's worked for a buddy of mine. His name is Handy Degbion. I haven't talked to Handy in years, but I used to. And Handy knows formulas like nobody's business. So when I get to a formula problem, I call Handy. He's my handyman. You got to find your own handyman. Who's that person that knows flows really well? I'm not that person, but I know when I need that person. So you've got so there's all these different flows that occur. A screen flow is like a web form. You got to fill it out in the order in which you want it done. So if the recipe matters, you would do a screen flow, like to gather information. What I love about screen flows is they put rigor to a process. What I hate about screen flows is there's usually not a lot of flexibility in the conversation, and it's hard with customer service. It seems like a good idea, but it's really anti to what your customers might enjoy. And I'm one of those customers that hate people that have to follow the flow. I had a guy come in. I wanted to buy a security system for my house. The guy was referred to me. I said, John said you're good. He said, yep. I said, give me a price for this house. He says, well, I have to do a presentation first. I said, I'm too busy for that. You just give me a price, and if I'll ask any questions about it. But if you say one word about your presentation, I'm going to get up and leave and leave you alone in my house. I'm going to leave my house and leave you here. He said, well, I got to do the presentation. I got up and left. I'm like, dude, you didn't, like, he wasn't flexible. So, right. I like to do free form to start because I hate that about customer service. They force people to do it. So here's the thing. So first you got to pick where is it happening, right? So what object is happening for you, Gerald?
This is on an employee record.
So like a
custom-
user record?
No.
Oh, you
no,
have
it's actually a work.com, managing COVID and stuff like that.
yeah. All right. Well, let's just call it an opportunity because I don't want to go back and rebuild all that stuff. But yeah. So, so you have to also tell the computer how to think, and right. So, is this when a record's created, updated, both, or when a record is deleted?
I can honestly, I can't show you the home screen. Let me.
No, just tell me what it is. It's got to be one of them. Just go through it with me.
Yeah.
Because look, I don't know the answer. Can't know the answers.
Right, and that's why I wasn't looking for anything specific. But I have handyman in my company that we call all the time. It was just, for me, it's one of my weak points is when that doesn't work.
What do you do?
How to pull it apart and figure out where it's breaking.
So I administer an assessment tool called the Harrison Assessment. And it's all about what people like to do. So if you like basketball, Gerald, you're probably going to be a better basketball player than if Dwayne hates basketball, right? Dwayne may be 7'4". He may have a 4-foot vertical leap. He may have the elbow of a gazelle and he could throw a basketball half midcourt and sink it every time. But if he hates basketball, who's going to be better? You that love it or he that hates it?
Well,
right?
I
If you
understand
love
your analogy.
So what I'm trying to say is, my point and my analogy both say, if you ain't good at something in Salesforce, you probably won't get good at it unless you really love it. And so don't sweat it if you don't get it, because unless you love it, you won't do it all the time. You won't do it enough to get the reps in. All right, so here's the thing. So what was yours? Was it created or edited, edited, both, or when it's deleted? What are the conditions of when this flow should start?
When it's created.
Just created.
Yeah.
So the first save is what you're doing. When this record is saved for the very first time, I'll go look to see if it meets the conditions. If there are entry conditions, does it have to meet all of them, any of them, or some other logic, right? That's algebra.
Yeah.
And now, I can't tell you the reason picking between these two flows. Let's see. I think fields on the record triggers flow to run. This high performance flow runs before the record. Oh, so there's, in the order of execution, as you do more of this stuff, in the cloud, just think of it in the cloud. Do you want this to happen before a record is saved for real or after it's saved? Right? That's what you're saying. It's just your strategy. So
it's after. I can show you the flow. It's not that complex.
Oh, you can? All right, show me the flow. I'll stop sharing. You show me your flow. Because this live Super Saturday Q&A for me is an example of what I do with my clients that enroll their students in my SuperUser Academy. Is that every week we're the handyman. We put the handyman in there. All right, let's look and see.
Okay, so I have to make sure I am not
sharing anything.
Yes.
Super
because
confidential.
it's a secure environment. Okay. All right. So this is a record triggered flow. So the idea is that when this record gets created, that's related to you,
Yep.
then this flow triggers to watch your record. Because if you don't update your record within an hour, this chain of events goes. Okay.
Gotcha. Can
Now-
you let me click on your screen too, just for a second?
Yeah.
All right. So one of the things I like to think, the way I like to think about this is like a mind. Somebody brought up mind mapping earlier. This is a mind
Yeah.
map tool, and for all intents and purposes. So how I like to place things is in a straight line methodology. Now sometimes I'll let it curve like this around because, you know, it's easier to manage or manipulate, that kind of thing. But I like a straight line, if you will, so I can see like where things are going, and if they stop going, I can kind of get a sense of where the chain of events occurred. If that makes sense. Oops.
Yeah.
So I'm just doing this for my own psychosis. Nothing you have to do different. And then, all right. So what you're saying is, in this little Rube Goldberg machine, once a record is created, the 3 conditions are met. It runs, and let me do this. I know this is I just want to be able to see it on the screen, right?
Yeah.
So then we'll move it around. So we're going to get after 1 hour, we wait an hour and then get the record, right?
Yep.
Get the location info, and is badge monitoring enabled on this location? Is that the thing they're supposed to do? You're testing to see if they did it?
Yeah.
Like
so
you wait.
This is right. So this is for wellness. So I have to determine if you've taken a survey.
Right on.
And when you take that survey, then it updates your employee record. So now I am testing that once this record got created that triggers this flow, I need to see this update occur in your employee record within the hour. If it does not, I'm going to send you or you and your manager, depending on the events, an email, a reminder
Right.
email going, hey, take the damn survey.
Right.
Okay.
It's
Now-
called sales. Remember, it's called Salesforce, Gerald, not Sales Ask, right? So
Okay.
do the
so
thing we asked you to do.
When you look at this, we've got get records, but
Yep.
when you go down to the bottom, in addition to emailing, it is updating both this record that got created, the SDO record, and the employee record. This,
Gotcha.
okay. So when I run this, not in debug mode, when I just run it, then those 2 records get updated as expected.
So all of that's happening.
Yes. What I'm not getting is a friggin' email.
So what is this last one?
That updates the record and it checks a box that says an email reminder was sent.
Gotcha. So this is to check to see if the email is available. That means email available employee from get employee record is.
That checks to see if the employee record has an email. Because it might not. It should, but you still got to test for it. So does this
Why is it is
employee
null?
record? Yeah. So your email field on your record, does it have an actual email address or not? I have to test.
But why is it is null instead of equals?
Because I'm testing.
Oh,
to
is
see
oh
if that
got
field
it.
is
Oh,
blank.
got it. It's if it is null is false, it means they have an email in there, right? I got it. Okay, got it.
Then
I had
there's a
to,
value in there, and I'm assuming it's a valid email address, but it doesn't have to be. I
Got
didn't
it.
check for that complexity, but if
So,
it's a malformed
what you
email
don't-
address, then I'm still going to run this.
but what happens here is this is a yes, the email is available. What happens if it's a no?
There's no. So
Okay.
right? So if you don't have an email address, I can't send you an email. Now, I could add, oh, guess what? If you don't, then do this action. I don't have a do this action. Not yet.
Right.
I'm actually going to be adding that.
So this is the thing that's not triggering. You're not, the email's not going to the person.
Yes, that's the better solution or the
Oh,
better
wait,
description.
So wait, are you in a sandbox doing this? Or are you doing it in production?
I'm in a sandbox.
That's why your email's not going. Yeah,
But
the email address on a sandbox has a dot invalid.
No.
Like
No,
whenever
these are properly formed email addresses.
they are. So they're,
Oh, yeah.
and your email deliverability is turned on in the sandbox.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you got okay. That was just checking, right? Because those are variables that people forget to when they're testing in a
No,
sandbox.
I totally understand. And if I run this flow in debug mode, it actually shows me the email. I'm using email templates here. It shows me the email all filled in, and it shows me who I'm emailing. And I'm like, yep, that works. But I'm never getting an email.
Are you creating new
haven't run
records for
into this
yourself?
before.
Let's go back, because let's go back to your decision tree. Let's make sure we get the right record. So let's look at what records you're, and is it getting the right record? And this is the SDO record. That must be the record of the site daily occupancy. So you're getting that,
Like I
you're
said,
getting the record that was saved.
yeah, all the
from that.
records are identified. I've got, and then both the SDO record and this employee record is getting updated as expected. But I'm never getting an email. So now,
Even on new records?
Yeah, so in Scratch orgs, you have limits on how many emails you can send, and then it just stops
Right.
sending them. Okay, I haven't hit that limit, so that's not the issue. But here's the other thing. This flow that you're looking at is the original flow. This is the beautiful part. This is the original flow, and it worked. And I modified this flow because right now it's a little complex, but it's a little complex, but this email action sends it just to the employee. Now we're adding additional functionality of what's the word? Emailing the manager as well.
Wait. So you go to the zone and you get location time zone mappings. Okay, got it. Why is location time zone map? All right, whatever.
Because I want to, ultimately, I'm going to be sending you an email, right? And so that email has to reference your time.
The right time zone.
Otherwise, it's going to give UTC, right? And they're going to go, I didn't log in at, 4 in the afternoon. I logged in at 8 a.m. That's why. The logic is working. What's not working is the email.
Fascinating. So what? Have you submitted a ticket to support with Salesforce?
No, I just ran into this on Friday.
Oh, gotcha. All right, so let me just check something. So why do you have this step in here, the organization-wide email address? Why are you checking this?
I'm checking for it. Actually, in my change, I remove it. Because I'm actually not even using it. So if I can take back control.
Yeah, you can.
All right.
So Yeah, you can totally like. I would take that out just because that might not be working in the sandbox. That might be what's screwing up in the sandbox.
No, it worked
That
before.
one in the sandbox.
Uh-huh. Back to list. Hang on a second here. Yeah, okay. All right. So here is, and so this is what we're doing now, right?
Yeah,
I
you gotta tell the
have
manager
to-
too.
So now I'm same workflow, right? It's the same trigger, same events. Is badge monitoring enabled? Yes. Does the employee record? Yes, yes, yes. Do I need to send this employee an email? So now it's checking. So when you take a survey, it updates your record with the date and time that you took that survey. So did we see a change in the employee record? Yes, do nothing. If it's no, then now I got to send you an email.
I know it's rare, but is there a change in the record? Are you looking for a specific change, or are you looking for any change?
No, I'm looking for a specific change. Like I said,
Okay, good.
all of that is working.
No, I
All
got
of
it. Okay,
this is
yeah.
working. So right now, I go send a mail and then update the SDO record, update the employee record. These two updates occur without fail. What's failing is the email. That's where this started. And if I run this in debug mode, it actually runs and it shows me the email and how it's assembling it. It runs.
I just think it's a sandbox issue. I just think it's sandbox.
I'm going down that road too, but I can send email from this sandbox.
So here's what I would do. I would.
So
Yeah,
I can open up a lead or a case or whatever, and I can send an email.
I know, but here's the thing. Flow is newer than that. So, my instinct, no knowledge, no data is telling me, but instinct is telling me this. If everything after the email is working, then the email worked and it shows it's working in the sandbox. That's ought to be good enough for you. And if you want to test it for realsies, I would get a developer org, do a change set, put this in upload or redo this in a developer org if you can. Like do a change set. Oh, you can't.
This is.
See, I'm a little more radical. My approach.
I'm in UAT here.
Yeah, but this is still a sandbox environment.
Yeah.
It's still a sandbox. Even though it's a developer sandbox, it's not a dev org on its own to test that flow. I think, and I'm just guessing, and I'll bet you if you search, and this just happened on Friday, right, Gerald?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's why. So this is beautiful. I'm glad you're here. My hunch, and I hope I'm right, is I would put a question out to the community and the answers community, right, in flows.
Yep.
But my hunch is that this flow sending an email from the sandbox is a special setting. And we know, and it may or may not be documented very well. It may or may not. It may be in the developer exchange where somebody knows what people who deal with this all the time. But my hunch is, what I would do is I'd load it in production and test it and then unload it like on a Saturday like today. If you have the ability to do that in production, load it in production, create a user that's your email, nobody else is going to get it, wait an hour, and you'll know if it works. Now, I would do it today or tomorrow when nobody's going to be affected by it. No, if you know other of these records are getting created.
But that's not an option. But this flow is already in production, the original one that I showed you.
The one you showed me before.
Yes. And
it's sending the email?
Yeah, but some people are getting the email when they feel they shouldn't have gotten the email. So I'm investigating that, and we're doing a Friday deployment, 12/10 deployment. So I am trying to resolve this, and the 12/10 deployment also includes the ability to now add the manager. So I am trying to
Gotcha.
build this flow so we can move it to QA, UAT, and stuff like that. What we have done is we have figured, me, when I say we, it's really me, because I'm determining
Sure.
the next steps. So
You're
I
the
am
governor.
concerned. Well, this is a flow, and this is an update flow, not a new one. So if we were to deploy it to QA, UAT, and ultimately production, if it doesn't work, I simply deactivate it and reactivate the one that was there, that was activated before we deployed. So from
Yeah.
my perspective, it's a risk-free.
Yeah. It's an email for.
Well, it's not. It's
Yeah.
also updating a couple records too, right?
No. But what I'm saying is the damage done is that an employee gets an email when they think or they either do or don't get an email, right, about a survey they're supposed to take, which you could. There's right. I get what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
I think that the sandbox and the flow is not a bug, but an undocumented feature. I think there's an undocumented feature that we don't know how to get to yet that says, send the damn email even though I'm in a sandbox. That's what I think. That's all I think that's happening, Gerald. I think I love that you spent time with us this morning, but I literally think that your challenge is that you're in a sandbox, and even though it's still sending emails for other things, it's not sending emails for flow. The only other way to test that is to create a new flow in the sandbox.
Don't have
that
to already
says-
have one.
Does it
And
send
I
an email
didn't
as an
check.
action?
Uh-huh.
And did it work? Because that's that's the variable. So
No.
isolate variables, right? I think
I will be running that test right after.
right.
After
So
this call, I will run this.
well, let's do it now. Let's create a flow that just sends you an email.
I cannot do that. I know I have the flow. The flow is already existing.
Oh, you have one that can just spit out an email to test. I would isolate that as a variable for the same kind of flow. Just make it like anytime a record, like go back to the beginning of, I would mimic the same object, and I would do the send action email to you, your email only, just to test to see if that's working in the sandbox. Then we can dive deep, because I think that's the hitch in the giddy up, but I could be wrong. The only way to tell is to isolate just the email action for that same object with nothing stopping it, and the email would go first to your email address to see if that is working, so nobody else gets affected by it in the sandbox. I think that's what's happening.
No, I can
That's
do
my
that.
guess.
I already have a record triggered flow that emails.
But is it
And I
working in the
haven't-
sandbox?
I haven't.
You got to
tested
test it. Yeah.
Of course
I
I,
would-
do, but I can't test it showing you my desktop.
No. Of course, I get that. I will say, and to be fair, thank you for that. By the way, I will say, you taking off?
Yeah, but he's due in 10 minutes.
I'm heading out in just a minute.
Okay, cool. I thought you were done at 12:30. So
I'm almost done. But Gerald's been fascinating. I have to go help a friend move stuff, right? So I'm gonna go do that. But Gerald, listen. So first of all, what do you do? What company do you work? Like, they don't tell me the company, but what? How did you get in my? Let me just find out. How did you get in my database? Did you? I'm gonna see how I found you. How you found me? Traction on Demand. That's who you work for.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Can we stop
Let me
recording?
see. Wait, hold on. Yeah, let me do this. Let me officially end the session. I just want to chat with you for a second before I leave. I mean, I know you got to my, I'm just looking at my database. You came in, you saw me today somewhere, somehow, and I appreciate, and so you clicked my link somehow, and that's how you got registered and all that kind of stuff, right? I just don't know.
I got an email
How did you hear
from
about
you,
me?
so I've connected to your resource before.
Oh, good.
I don't remember where.
I don't either. That's what my database got all jacked up, and yeah, you've been around since April of this year somehow or another. Okay, I get it. That's cool. Well, thanks for being here. I'm glad we're connected. I'm glad you came on to show this kind of stuff. And if you have any other questions, and even if, by the way, what I'm out to do with this is to build not just a SuperUser Academy, but really a SuperUser community, and of people who are interested, care, want to get better, want to help each other. Because I think you have just as much to offer me in terms of my challenges as I could you. And vice versa. Amanda's really good at this stuff and all that. And I want to create some ways that we can kind of get together and support each other and support our clients to learn what they don't know. And then I'm going to say thank you for everybody showing up. And I'm going to stop the live.